Hello guys and welcome back to another video. I guess I'm finally back in the mood to actually make something useful, so for today I decided to make a video on the topic of whether or not you should loot from the ground manually, because this was a question that I used to ask myself back in the days when we only had a maximum of 3 pets available and there was also no agile mode. So back then I used to wonder if it's actually worth my time to loot from the ground whatever my pets don't get, instead of just moving on to the next group. So that's exactly what I tested for today, and even though now we actually have 4 pets and the agile mode available, I'm still curious to see if this question of manual looting is actually something worth answering. What I will be looking at in this video is basically how much money you can make extra if you decide to loot manually from the ground, and also in the same time how much experience you're going to be losing if you decide to do that, because obviously if you start looting from the ground you're going to kill mobs slower, so as a result I expect to get more money but less experience. Now, before I move on to the actual test, I want you guys to keep in mind that this data reflects my results from my own perspective, because I am actually playing a level 60 wizard, and from what I learned from my previous videos, wizards are either the fastest grinding class or somewhere up on the top 3. And also I have 2 tier 1 pets and 2 tier 3 pets, so some people are going to have faster pets and some slower than mine. I'm not really sure if having 2 more tier 3 pets matters that much, but still some people are going to be able to get better results than what I got. So with this all in mind, let's start talking about the actual test. To get a somewhat more accurate data, I decided to do this test on 2 different locations. So I tested both bandits and Kadrys, mainly because on the bandit side I can pretty much one-shot every group and move to the next one. So I have a pretty fast or pretty good clearing speed. And on the Kadry side, mobs have more HP or more defense, and also on top of that they have a block. So most of the time I'm not able to one-shot the groups, and also they are more dense or more grouped together, so I'm most of the time staying for longer periods of time on one location. So that means my pets have more time to loot from the ground, and I expect to have different results. So let's begin by talking about the bandits part first. Here the first test that I did was basically to grind as fast as I possibly could without looting anything from the ground. So I was grinding exactly how I usually do on all of my experience videos, by only letting my pets loot the items from the ground, and I was just trying to kill the mobs as fast as possible. And to talk a little bit about that loot, basically I'm only going to be taking into consideration the main trash item, because all of the other items are just a chance to obtain, and the trash item usually is pretty consistent throughout all of the tests. So I'm going to be comparing the main trash item and the pure experience that I'm making. So for this test I grinded the bandits cliffside rotation twice. So I basically did 2 different runs, and both of them were of exactly 10 minutes. So if I make an average out of those 2 runs, I got about 0.0064% experience per minute and about 469 trash items in 10 minutes. So the experience is going to be per minute and the trash items per 10 minutes. Now these values alone don't really mean anything, so let's move on to the second part where I tested the exact same rotation again while looting from the ground manually. So I basically did the rotation again, and this time I was making sure I was looting from the ground whatever my pets couldn't loot. So I was prioritizing clearing up the items from the ground and then moving on to the next group. And this time I got to grind somewhat 3 times, because I grinded twice for 10 minutes and a third run also for 10 minutes, but on that one I cannot count the experience because the buff buffs on my bar kind of expired midway. So on the first 2 runs I have the experience, which is an average of about 0.043% experience per minute, and then the items, which are made an average out of all 3 runs, and it's about 559 items or trash items per 10 minutes. So now that I have the values of experience and trash loot for looting and no looting from the ground, I can finally make some form of comparison between these two types of grinding. There's just one problem. To compare these two values, I have to pick one of them as being the 100% or just the default normal grinding speed, and then have the other one compared to this default value. So that's why I'm going to have two different conclusions. For the first one, I'm going to consider that the no looting data is basically the normal one, and I'm just switching from not looting from the ground to looting from the ground. And in that case, I would get about 19% more loot and about 33% less experience. So basically, if I'm in the scenario where I'm not looting anything from the ground and I decide to start doing that, then I would win about 19% more loot and I would lose about 33% experience. So I could say that in my opinion this isn't really a good deal, but this is of course up to you to decide if you want to do that. And on the other hand, if I consider the manual looting data as the default one, then switching from manual looting to not looting anything, I would basically lose about 16% of the drops, and I would win about 49 or almost 50% more experience. So that's a pretty big jump, and again, as I said, it's up to you if you want to do that trade or not. For those who are a little bit confused as to why there are two different conclusions, basically you can take the numbers yourself and compare them, and you will see that it matters which one of them is the base value, because the other one is going to scale differently. So I really hope I'm not wrong on this aspect, but I'm going to be presenting two different values, and if somehow I'm wrong, you can just take the numbers and compare them yourself. So let's move on to the Kadry side of this test. Here at Kadry's, I basically repeated the same tests again, so I just picked the best rotation that I knew, which is the one near the gatekeeper, and I did this without and with looting. So starting off with the first one, which is without looting from the ground, this time I got to do 3 different tests, and this time all 3 of them are actually usable, so I did 3 tests, all of them of 10 minutes, and if I make an average out of those 3 tests, I got about 0.0057% experience per minute and about 523 trash items per 10 minutes. So that's the result that I got from the 3 runs without looting anything from the ground. Again, as I said, only my pets were looting, and the mob density here at Kadry's is supposedly better because I'm killing a little bit slower and mobs are more packed together, so I'm staying more time in one place. Just like before, these values have no real meaning without the second part of the test, so moving on to the part where I was actually looting manually from the ground, this time I did again 3 different tests, but one of them was of 11 minutes. So on that run of 11 minutes, I'm going to reduce the trash items to per 10 minutes just to match the other ones, and if I make an average out of the 3 runs that I did, basically I got about 0.0046% experience per minute and about 565 trash items per 10 minutes. Now, since I have the values for looting and no looting, let's make some form of conclusion for the Kadry side. Again, I'm going to have to present two different results, so starting with the one where I don't loot anything from the ground and I move to looting from the ground. Basically the result is that I'm going to lose about 20% experience and I'm going to win only about 8% more money or more loot from the ground. So already from what you can see, comparing this to bandits, it's a little bit of a smaller impact. And on the second side, if I am already looting from the ground and I move to no looting from the ground, I'm going to lose about 7.5% income or just loot from the ground, and I'm going to win about 25% more experience. So now let's just draw a final conclusion from this entire test and see exactly what I got from the values from Kadry and Bandits. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that I can notice that it matters a lot what is the clearing speed of the individual character, because moving from Bandits to Kadry, I already can notice that the impact is smaller and that my pets do indeed have more time to loot from the ground. So moving from not looting anything to actually looting from the ground, it doesn't really give me that much more money because my pets just simply are looting fast enough even if I'm not helping them. And also on that same page, basically if I stay to loot from the ground, sometimes I just pick something and it says it's empty because my pets already looted that. And on the other hand, if I do keep on killing, then I'm giving my pets more items on the ground to keep on looting, while if I stop and loot them from the ground, basically there will be times when there will be nothing else left to loot from the ground. So in my opinion, it would be a waste to say to just simply stay and loot instead of just keep on killing. In my opinion, this applies to anyone regardless of their clearing speed, because from what you can see, the impact gets smaller and smaller the slower you're actually grinding. So those who are grinding slower or are just newer players, then for them I'm pretty sure that it's the best case scenario to just keep on killing monsters and not loot anything from the ground, because at their clearing speed their pets should be enough to handle all of the items, and if not, still you're going to need that experience more than you're going to need some 8% more drops. And for those who can clear very fast, like my wizard on the bandits side, then I would say that it's pretty much a choice of which one you want to prioritize first. On my wizard's case, or actually in my own case, I would prefer to get the full amount of experience and just lose that 20 or something like that % money, because in my mind it's more important to hit level 60 or level 61 than to make 1 or 2 more millions per hour. As I said, this is more of a personal choice, so at least now you know about how much money you're going to win and how much experience you're going to lose if you switch from one style of grinding to another. Anyway, at this point the video is about done, so one more thing that I want to say is that I did think about performing this test also on my berserker, but after seeing the data I decided that it would only reveal that the gap would get even smaller, so it was pretty much a waste of time to say, or just I didn't feel like making it. But if you guys really want me to do another video on this topic, I could do the test again on my berserker, just to see if someone who's grinding slower would actually get no difference at all on the money income if he actually stops to loot from the ground, or just something like that. So yeah, the video is done. If you want to continue this conversation, you can just leave a comment below and we can discuss about this further. And I'm not sure if there is anything else left to say. There's also Patreon, so the link for that is in the video description as always, and I'm pretty sure that's about all I have to self-promote. So yeah, thanks for watching and I hope to see you next time.